Cold brew coffee is the new hype at the moment. I'm even going to give you a tip about Nitro Cold Brew in the text, but it has to do with coffee that was brewed cold, with cold water. They've been doing it for more than 100 years in Asia. They call that their Dutch coffee. But if you do it at home, typically every recipe will require you to let your coffee stand in cold water for 24 hours before you can use it. Now, there is a principle in cooking, a new cooking ways that is called sous vide, under vacuum. That's a French word. And this comes from the principle that if you cook things at a lower temperature than the typical temperature, they have lots of flavors. And you have lots of things that you can buy online to do this technique. But I thought, let's mix both. The Thermomix to do the grinding and the sous vide cooking, and I'm going to be able to have my cold brew in 2 hours only. Let's start. Easy. I'm going to put here by weighting, sorry, I should have got that before, weighting 130 grams of coffee grain. Now I use grains of coffee. You can use pre-grinded one, but use the coarse one. You don't want the fine one. You don't want espresso coffee. You want the very old-fashioned filter coffee, because if it's too fine, your cold brew is going to be, you're not going to be able to see through. It's going to leave, it's going to be opaque. So I use this because it's a Thermomix, and then to make it not too long, I'm going to do 5 seconds at 8. Now we are ready to do the next step. So if you see, I'm going to try to show you, it's very coarse. Yep. So if it's very coarse, look, my hands are not very much stained. And basically, I just need to fill this with water. I'm going to fill it with the mark here that I have, which is max. Basically, it's about 2 liters of water. Give me a second. There we are. I put this back on. And I'm going to put this for the maximum time I have here, which is 99 minutes. You can put an hour and a half. That's about what it is. Now here's the important part. You're going to heat it up to 60 degrees Celsius. That's where the sous vide cooking comes in. We're going to heat this at a low temperature, which will not go over the boiling point or the specific point where the fat and the bitterness of the coffee will enter the water. It will remain below that level. The level, if you're curious, is 65.5 degrees Celsius. But because Thermomix is not that precise when it comes to temperature, I just rather be on the safe side, and I put 60 degrees Celsius here. And to mix this up, I'm going to do it on reverse at 1.5. And that's all there is to it. I'm going to let this happen. Okay, now it's been an hour and a half. The cold brew, which is not yet cold, is ready. So it needs to be cold or cooler before we're going to filter it. So we're going to have to wait for about half an hour. Okay, it doesn't really matter if it's not completely cold. I think half an hour or an hour, if you want, is sufficient enough. I think the coffee I made just yesterday was just half an hour and it was perfect. So you just need to filter this, which is a bit the longer part, I find, of the process. So if I move this aside, I take here just a jug and a manual old-fashioned filter. If you still have this in the house, I'm going to have another trick for you. So you put this in, and then you just need to pour your coffee in there slowly and let it be filtered. Now, if you're going to do all your jug, the trouble is the filter is going to get very dirty, and by the second and third, it's going to go extremely slow to filter this coffee. You see it dripping already. What you could do as an alternative is, and it's even cheaper if you don't have this, I use this old, well, whatever. I use this, I forgot what the name in English is for this thing. You let me know. But you see, it's the water goes through. And then I take just kitchen paper and absorbent thing, and I just make my own filter here. It's much cheaper than all those, and because the area is a little bit bigger, it's going to go faster to actually filter it. So I just need to be careful here, but there we are. I can put a much bigger quantity of this. Yes, you let this drip, and there you have it. You have cold drip coffee that you can serve. My cold drip coffee is still a little bit warm and I want to drink it now, so I'm just going to put 2 ice cubes in there and enjoy my cold brew that was made within 2 hours, all in the Thermomix. Oh, a couple of tips that I've seen in Asia about drinking this. It is acceptable to put milk in it and sugar if you want to. You also can heat it. They often serve cold brew hot. The reason is this coffee has no bitterness. It's very sweet. It's very soft. How they do it, I've seen in Korea, is they just a little bit do extremely hot water, a small amount, and then they put this cold brew into it. Or you can just be very lazy, and I'm sure that hardcore people will criticize me, but put this in the microwave and there you go. You have a hot coffee that is smooth to the taste and no bitterness. Cold brew made in the Thermomix.